Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I was hoping the room would be full, but I know it's early in the morning and it's hard to get up at 9 a.m., but I'm glad those of you who are here. And I always believe those that need to be here and hear whatever it is we need to share are here in the room. And it doesn't take a million people to spread a message. Sometimes it starts with one of us as we work through our communities, through the lives of those we serve, and if we change one life in the work that we do, I consider it an accomplishment. I wanted to thank Dr. Fagan for having me here. I didn't graduate from a university, but I have been doing the work that I've been doing for 17 years. I started out, I'll give you a little bit of my history. From 6 to 11, I was sexually molested by 2 stepbrothers and a stepfather. I ended up going through a lot of different adverse changes in my life, and I believe that I had been robbed of my soul, which is why I wrote Robbed of a Childhood, Raped by the System, so everyone would know. I will be doing a domestic violence workshop tomorrow at 10 o'clock where I will touch on a lot of that. But today I am here to talk to you about the at-risk youth. People say at risk, and I'll share with you how I feel about that language too before this session is over. But I believe if we place any labels on anyone, children, be it adults, be it whomever it is, an adolescent, then that is who they believe they become, as I did. Hearing curse words all throughout my life, I began to believe that that was a part of the normal language that we use when we approach others. And so I wanted to say that I believe in true transformation, not a fake facade, not me taking on your culture or you having to take on my culture, but that we are human beings, all of us, and we are different. And all of us have different ingredients that we bring into any program, design, or curriculum. But the youth that I serve who are self-medicating, shooting up heroin, snorting bath salts, cutting to release the pain that they're going through, these youth that I work with, and I heard the young lady say she grew up in Blaine, Minnesota. Well, I work in an alternative school in Blaine, Minnesota today. I went to the Minneapolis Convention Center after the director had bought 25 of my first books and 25 of my last book to share with those students who are 14 to 21 to let them know that we are living in a real world, and human trafficking and those kinds of things are happening to young people such as yourself. If 98% of the women have been abused at some point in their lives and 75% of the men, that means those of you who are in this room have probably went through some same or similar experiences. And no, we don't always talk or share our lives or our stories, but those a lot of times are the things that continue to keep us crippled and locked up inside. I am free from the ghosts that hindered my past, even those from the sexual molestation, because I work with men, women, and youth exiting corrections. I built an organization called Women Planting Seeds from the ground up to work with men, women, and youth specifically who have been incarcerated or fleeing domestic violence situations. All the language, all the ingredients, and all I have learned in 8 years of being a victim offender dialogue facilitator as a volunteer with the Department of Corrections for over 8 years. I've learned a lot. I went through their police academy of 2 weeks like they do regular officers, and parole, those who work with probation, and all of those kinds of things, and I didn't understand a lot of the things that they have in place because I'm a community person and I go by first names, they go by last names. But when you understand what a hostile takeover could be like, then you understand why they are the way they are and why they deliver their services in the manner that they do. We cannot get too friendly with those we believe we cannot turn our back on. But as the officer that taught me said, the more you build a relationship with the individuals that you are locking behind bars, the more they would have your back too. So everybody, I believe, everything depends on the youth we're serving, on building relationships, sharing with them, and embedding with them that they are human beings. They are more than the statistics. They are more than numbers. They are a person. And I want to say this. I've written what I wanted to say to you, but I got to say to you what's in my heart too. And I will read what I wrote because I don't want to be off track. But I wanted to say this, that when I first went to work with this school, after doing a presentation to over 200 youth and 10 directors at the Minneapolis Convention Center, and I thought that morning I was just going to speak to a classroom. You have to be prepared for everything that may come at us. And no matter what it was like or how many was in the room, I didn't believe I was going to be prepared. But when you do the work that I do with passion, with dedication, with the knowledge that has been transferred within me, then we are going to serve them with heart. And when people feel your heart, they know you have their best interest. You guys are going to be going out into a real world where real work is called for. The knowledge that you obtain here will prepare you, you hope, for that arena. But I'm going to tell you, I've been through a lot of training in a lot of classrooms. Nothing trains you than how well you're trained once you hit the floor running and you've moved to action. I wanted to say that. No. I wanted to say that when I first started working with the kids, I would say, wow, maybe they don't want to hear what I have to say, or maybe they don't want to learn what I want to share. But I'm going to give it, and I'm going to share it, and I'm going to help love them whole. And when I give it that way, they will receive it. I watch the children that I serve many times cuss the teachers out, tell them they're not going to do this or they're not going to do that. They don't want to be bothered. They want to socialize. And people would say, oh, those adverse experiences, drug abuse, parents drinking, children drinking, partying, smoking marijuana, they're not going to be doing nothing. They're at-risk youth. Well, how do you expect a child to act when that's who they believe you believe they are, and that's all it is? But when you care about them, you show them respect, they give respect back. So the way I work is, if I respect you, and I show you that kind of respect, I ask that you give me that same respect. I can't make you do it. I can't force you to do it. I don't want to hear that language because I used to cuss everybody out the same way you're doing. I'd cut you up and make lunch meat out of you and didn't think nothing of it either. But I learned that I had to word my mouth with good things and kindness and to change my behavior. And no matter how my parents were, fighting and cutting and gutting each other out, yeah, I saw blood and guts, guys, on the weekends in my homes. I'm not here to fake with you or to pretend with you. I am here to be as real as I can be because we are in a real world and the children are at war many days with one another. I am 8 years in mediation. I am really a mediation consultant. I've written 3 books. My first, Robbed of a Childhood Raped by the System. My second, From Hell to Heaven, because I had to learn how to quit being a hell raiser and learn how to be heaven bound. That's what I call it. And I also had to learn how to figure out what is a complete person and what is an incomplete person. So my last book is an incomplete story of a whole person. So I want to talk to you now, since you know a little bit of my background, about transformation and what that really means to me, and understand how to teach the youth how to tap into true emotions, because perceptions many times is what guide our lives and get us to be who we really are. And if our perceptions are distorted because we didn't grow up in what many call a normal family, then we go in with the wrong ingredients in the first place. It is my belief that any program we design has to have embedded within it ways of connecting youth to others who have same or similar experiences, as well as those who have had what many would consider our normal life. Because how do we understand how to become normal if we've never lived in any normal environments? Children cannot think and function at the capacity we want them to function at if they have watched their parents fighting all night long and they have been up half the night, they haven't eaten, they don't know where they're going to go back home with a roof over their head or not, they don't know if the parent's going to be incarcerated by the time they get home or not. This is a real world we're dealing with, and the children are trying to juggle to the best of their ability. My granddaughter, Precious Watson, graduated from here at Mankato State, 4 years, right out of high school. And now she has did 880 hours at Minnesota Teen Challenge and finished that to get her degree. And now they're hiring her. But she came to the workshop that I did on domestic violence and she said, "Grandmother, we have a lot of book knowledge, but you're giving us some real ingredients and some real knowledge, and we need both. We do need both. And without the paper that you guys are acquiring today, a lot of times it's going to be hard to get a job, and even with the paper and no experience, it's hard to get. So we need both. There also needs to be a culturally specific component, as well as having a piece of different cultures involved and ingrained and embedded within that curriculum, because why would I care about somebody else's culture if I can't bring mine into the room as well? I don't want to come into any classroom that I ask the children to leave the best of who they are behind and be who we need them to be. They have their own minds, they have their own desires, they have their own aspirations, and some of them could write the curriculum better than we could because they know what works for them. And if we do not have curriculum that is designed with some of the ingredients of who they are within it, they will lose interest fast. In order to serve youth better, we need to make sure that they help create the design that we're asking them to live into the experience of. And by this, I really mean there has to be a payoff, and yes, there is a cost with everything we do as well. And what I mean is this. The children want to know really from us, what's in it for them? What are they going to get for doing the work I'm asking them to do? What are they going to do with this information, this math, this English, this knowledge that they are acquiring when they'll say, well, I'm not going to use trig, I'm not going to use geometry on my job. Show me some real world experience. And so we are a work-based, learning-based environment. Meaning I will call up an employer, I will call up a company and do cold calling and say, hey, these are the youth that I'm working with. These are some of the labels that have been given them. And yes, there will be moments in their lives that they will act upon that label. But it doesn't mean that it's the core of who they are. Our children are hurting. And why are they hurting? Do we ever ask them why they're hurting inside? Why they're angry? Why they're bitter? Why they're coming to school with an attitude? Do we get to know them? Do we build that relationship to the core of who that child is? And I know many of you may say, and what you're hearing me say may say, I'm not a social worker. I'm a teacher. I'm an instructor. And I will say to you, so am I. And I do it to the best of my ability with the knowledge that I have within me, and everything that I've learned, I have it to give. Because I didn't get it for nothing. And somebody cared enough for me to stand with me long enough for me to learn to love and care for myself. If I fail, nobody cares for me. Nobody cares whether I live, whether I fail, and I'm going to die before I'm 21 anyway. Where's the life inside of me? And what am I living to experience? Death. I know what it's like to be that child who's dead inside, and I know what it's like to be an adult who is dead inside. But I know what it's like to live, too, and breathe and feel free of the ghosts that hindered my walk and my path. I am not here as a victim anymore, and I know what it's like to be a victim. I know what it's like to be the perpetrator, and I know what it's like to be a rescuer, because that is what I consider myself today. I am here to rescue those who can hear a message that is real and that will deliver us from the experience inside our head. Because if I keep living the past over and over again, it becomes my future. But if I can understand that the path that I walked, the road that I traveled, ingrained and built inside of me, a woman that can do some amazing things and build and design and create and establish and develop whatever it is anyone else can design and develop. And yes, sometimes I need a roadmap and a blueprint to get me there. But as long as I'm willing to put in the work and the effort and the work to do it, do not judge me by the color of my skin, but the content of truly who I am. As Dr. Martin Luther King once said, judge me by the content of my character. And yes, it was a road long traveled. Because when you believe that you have lost your character and your values because of the choices you have made with using your body in the wrong way and your mind leaving it behind because mama said you ain't never going to be nothing, you ain't going to do nothing, and all you got working for yourself is a body. Well, you learn to work your body, but to the wrong advantage. We are not just here to say to our youth, you need to do this, this, and this. What if they don't even know how to read this, this, and that? Because I'm going to say this, guys, ladies, gentlemen. It doesn't matter if a child is in the 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. Somebody has passed them through those grades to get rid of them. Because they were too much of a hindrance, they believe, to deal with them any longer. And they're going to end up in prison anyway. How do we know that? I could have ended up in prison with the choices I made too, but I am not there. Because a dirty bust in 1998 showed me I am bigger than any courtroom lie as well. And yes, I could have propositioned the undercover officer who had came into that room, because I was a living and breathing masseuse. I am not that today, nor do I desire to use my body in such an illicit manner. But I do know I could have done it that day and ended up in prison. But I knew the undercover officer who said I prostituted myself with him was a lie, and the truth that day was not in him. And I ended up in a courtroom. And for the first time, I looked at that child that was still crying inside of the adult for someone to come and save her, and said, the Lord said, and I hope I offend no one, but he told me if the truth is not in me, I can stand before kings, and he would be with me. And so I took a chance on bringing the truth into the courtroom and saying, no. My body did not say yes, and my mouth said no. My body and my mouth said no 6 times. And the judge finally said to the officer, he said, I don't believe that after 6 times she said yes. And so, to make a long story short, he didn't show up the last day of my trial, and I was let go of that. And I got down on my knees in my living room and shared with a 22-year-old son who did not know their mother's hindrances or adverse childhood experiences to say, I will never do that again, and I will never go back to work to that job again, and I will find my way through this maze another way, and yes, my bills are $2,000 a month, and yes, I will take a job starting at $10 an hour rather than looking for hundreds and thousands one may get in the business I was in. And yes, I started from scratch, and yes, I started over, and yes, I learned how to design and build and create a new kind of youth, a new kind of mother, a new kind of person. And I lost the person I believed I was to become the person that's standing before you today to say, I understand the youth that I am working with. I am going to help them get through the experiences that they're getting through. I may not teach the same way that you do. I may not talk the same way you talk. I may not use the same words you use, but I do know what being free truly is, and I do know that I don't have to sell myself short any longer, because my son said to me, what son, mother, went to prom in a limousine as I did. You are my mother and I love you, and there is nothing you could do to keep me from loving you. I got off my knees and I said, I typed 90 words a minute and I need to put it into operation. And no, I don't know how to use a computer, but I am going to Summit Academy OIC as a 43-year-old mother of 5 grown kids who never believed she could accomplish nothing, who had put the books down to be a mother and feed my children to the best of one ability without a welfare check telling me, and without someone saying how much my TV's going to cost, what husband or boyfriend could be in my house, and how much my rent was going to be, because I wanted something different for my children, so I sold out my soul to feed them. But today I know man didn't give me my soul, nor can he take it away, and the rates from 6 to 11 as that little bitty girl cannot define the woman I am today, but it is a part of the ingredients who made me stand here with you and bring this message about the youth that we are losing. We are losing them because of a curriculum, because of a book, because of a lesson structure that they cannot seem to feed into. We must work with the children on an individual basis and help them deal with and understand the adverse childhood experiences that they have faced. And no, you're not their mothers, you're not going to be their fathers, but you will be their educators, and you will be their teachers, and they will be your world leaders of tomorrow. We need to work with them on what's affecting them, whether they're hungry, we find them food. We give them gift cards, we feed them. If they need clothing, we clothe them. If they need housing, we house them. And yes, we are paraprofessionals, and yes, they are going to get a regular diploma from the school that I'm working with, which is an alternative school. And so many people are trying to diss alternative schools and saying they don't have the proper teachers. I say yes, they do, because we were handpicked to teach them. Yes, they have regular teachers teaching them trig and geometry and algebra. Yes, they have teachers who are teaching them social studies. Yes, they have English and science teachers as well. And yes, I am there to teach them healthy relations and self-esteem. I am there to teach them trauma and healing, because Stephanie Covington taught me how to do it. And yes, I delivered the curriculum to mothers who have lost their children because of drug abuse for over a year. And yes, I worked in a supported housing program delivering self-esteem curriculum that I designed from the ingredients that's in the room. And what I mean by that is this. You can always go in the room with a curriculum, but there's always going to be someone who cannot follow that curriculum, and you're going to have to think of what they're dealing with, what they're struggling through, what they brought into the room, and what they went through themselves in order to design the curriculum that will best fit the needs of those individuals. And then I think to myself, well, what would I have wanted if I was the normal mom? I would have wanted someone to help build my broken core and my self-esteem until I learned to value myself to a higher level and a higher capacity. And yes, I would want someone to share with me truly the effects of this drug and what it's doing to my body and the ingredients that goes into it, even though I believe that I knew who I got the weed from or whatever, there are still different chemicals on every joint that you smoke, and some may not be what you think it is. I have a friend who smoked angel dust once when he thought he was smoking marijuana, and he is still not back to his right self today. We think we know everything we're putting into our bodies, and I tell you we don't. I was the mother who did try crack cocaine, to the point really of thinking that I was stronger than the man who introduced me to it inside my head. I know what it's like to say to oneself, all I need is my pipe and a closet and I will be all right. I know what it's like to watch my friends crawl around on the floor looking for another hit, to the point of saying, it's time for me to pray. Because I don't want to be that friend crawling around on the floor or peeking through the doors of a closet thinking someone's after me or seeing someone on the roof. You know, the judge in that courtroom, they offered me a deal to say that I did prostitute myself with the undercover officer, and I said, no, I didn't. He said, but you can get a deal of 6 months and you can be out of here and you don't even have to go to court. I said, but I smoke weed. And if you do a UA on me and you find I smoke weed, then I'm going to do the time anyway. I'm not taking a deal. I really can't put my hand on the Bible and swear to a lie, because then I'm going to hell. That's what saved me, guys. I couldn't put my hand on the Bible and swear to that lie. But he told me a truth that I